so much for joining me. Let me get my Periscope turned around here. There we go. Got that started. Thank you so much for joining me on today. Sorry I'm coming on so late. Hey, Renal, thank you so much for joining me. Sorry I'm coming on so late, but it has been a long day, and I feel like a really busy bee today, but it was a very productive busy bee. So thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kayl. I am the customer service and leadership coach. I am an author. I am a motivator, motivational speaker, and I am a mentor. Today we're going to be talking about trust and how important is trust in your relationship. Hello, Dan. Thank you so much for joining me on Periscope. So we're going to be talking about trust and how important is trust in your relationship. A lot of people talk about trust and they say that they trust, their spouses, and they trust, one another. But then they do some things that make you realize that they really don't trust their significant other. And we're not just talking about marriages here. We're talking about relationships altogether, right? So we want to make sure that we understand that in order to be in a relationship, you must trust one another. Trust is just as important as being in love with that person, or that person loving you, or you loving that person. That's how important trust is. I can't see or imagine or ever hearing anyone really having a good, productive relationship if they do not trust one another. So let's just set the guide first on the definition of trust. Trusting someone means that you think that they are reliable. You have confidence in them and you feel safe with them, physically and emotionally. Trust is something that two people in a relationship can build together when they decide to trust each other. So it says physically and emotionally. We know that emotionally, it's just like abuse. You have physical abuse and you have mental, can be emotionally abused, right? So when you emotionally abuse, other people can't see it. But guess what? You can emotionally abuse yourself. When you don't trust someone, what are some of the things that, I know Renal, you're on and two other people are on. What are some of the things that you do when you don't trust your spouse? What are some of the things that you've done before? And all of us have been in a relationship where we haven't trust someone, right? We all hadn't gotten that relationship where everything has been perfect. So we've been in relationships where we have not trusted that person. What are some of the things that you do when you don't trust someone? I would love to see you put some of those in the comments. And on the ones on Periscope, I would love to see you put them in the comments as well. I know some of the things that I've done in the past is, and thank God cell phones were not out then, but we had the pagers, and cell phones were just coming out, but then they had those bag phones. I'm telling my age now. They had those bag phones, right? But some of the other things that I've done, second guess their motives. Exactly. So every time they say they love you, oh, that's really good, Renal. I have an example for that one. My husband used to send me flowers all the time, roses, because roses is like my favorite, right? But he used to send them to me every week, and they was like $50-some, and we had 2 kids, and every time he sent them to me, I really thought that meant that he was trying to cover up something that he had done. But I would complain and say, that he didn't need to be spending that amount of money. But in the back of my head, and then listening to other people, because he would send them at work. Yes, very doubtful, Pamela. He would send them at work to me. And the other ladies will say, oh, I wonder what he did today. So letting those people get in your head, instead of me thinking that he sent the roses because he knew that I really did love roses. And I love red roses. I love yellow roses. I love white roses. Instead of thinking that he sent them to me because I really did enjoy them, the smell of them, the look of them. We had a rose garden in the back of our house. I let that, get in my head where everything that he did for me that was nice is because he was trying to cover up something that he was in the street doing that I may not even have known about. And what that did is I complained so much. It was probably 13 or 14 years. He did this for like a year or two. But after I complained so much about it, it was probably 13 or 14 years that I never received another flower at all. So I destroyed my own self because I was so worried about, what he was doing outside of the home and what was he trying to cover up with that. So yes, Renal, we second guess their motives. We're very doubtful when they do something, Pamela. That's correct. We doubt everything that they do. We doubt that they're not doing it for us out of love. They're doing it for us to cover things up. And we're always second guessing everything that they're doing. So emotionally listening and following what others say. Exactly. And that's what I was doing when it came to the roses. They was planting that seed inside of my head saying that, my husband was so good to me. And they were saying that, well, it's something else that's going on. He's just not spending that money on those roses. He's probably out there doing something else. And, I let that get in my head and that causes problems, right? It caused me not to get flowers for about 14 years. Flowers that I loved. But I let someone else get in my head. So hey, Simone, thank you so much for joining. So when you think about trust, you have to think about that. You're not only hurting that person, you're not only hurting your hurting the relationship, you're hurting yourself emotionally. You're putting yourself through this. Another thing that I would do when we was much younger is when I washed clothes, I would go through his pants pockets to see that he have any numbers in there. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm trying to wash clothes and get through washing clothes. I'm thinking about, what? Who else is he trying to talk to? Is he taking numbers from other ladies? Emotionally, that's putting me through something. But it's putting him through something if I let him know that I'm doing that, because now he's trying to make sure that he has nothing to represent another female or something. So that's putting a strain on our relationship. When you are in a relationship, you have to trust one another. If there's no trust there, I don't care how much you love that person, that relationship will not work. It will not work. It doesn't matter. You must build mutual trust. They have to trust you and you have to trust them. You can't go around and be so scared of everything that they're doing. One thing that I had to learn as a young lady, and I always try to use myself as an example because I don't want anyone coming on, I don't want anyone thinking I'm coming on here and I'm saying that I'm perfect and I know all this stuff. I'm not perfect, but I have learned from the mistakes that I've made in my past. Over 31 years, don't you know I've made a lot of mistakes in being with my spouse? Most definitely I have. So one of the mistakes that I made is I have a very attractive husband, right? A boyfriend back then. And then my husband. So one of the mistakes I made is he loves to, I wouldn't say flirt, but he loves attention. Well, I love attention, but I couldn't see that back then. All I can see was women always coming up on him, trying to say, what it is that I'm looking at him saying that, well, why are you calling them baby? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are ladies always looking at you? You must be doing something as well. And what I had to find out is that is just part of his personality. It had nothing to do with, he was not trying to be disrespectful to me, and he wasn't being disrespectful. Guess what? He had been doing this since he was a teenager. What I had to understand is that he cannot control when women were going to be attracted to him. That's something that I had to understand. I had to trust that, when women would come on to him, that he knew enough and he loved me enough that he would not respond to that. So that's one of the things that we have to do. We have to allow people to be who they are, and we have to trust them enough to let them think, for us to know that they are going to respect us when they go out in public or when they go around the opposite sex. That's very important. When you trust someone, you're going to be there for them, and then you accept that they're going to be there for you. You can't trust someone and then you always wanting them around you 24/7. That's the only way that you can trust them if they're in your eyesight. You have to trust a person to go outside of your eyesight and still do what you think they would do in front of you. I'm always that person. I'm a hugger now, and I never was a hugger when I was young. I'm a hugger now. So when I see the guys that I know, when I see the females that I know, when I'm not around my husband, I always hug them. So when I'm in front of my husband, sometimes the men, and they do have to be careful of this, they kind of shy away from hugging because they don't know how the gentleman is going to do, right? They don't know how my husband is going to react to it. But my thing is, if I don't have anything to hide, side and I hug you when he's not around, I should be able to do the same thing when he's around. It becomes a problem when you act different when you're not around your spouse, and then you act another way when you are around them. You should always act the same. They should always expect for you to do the same, because when you are not around your spouse, or when you are not around the person that you're in a relationship with, then you act differently. Then it's going to cause a person not to trust you. Well, why are you acting so differently now? And I even say that around, the guys when my husband's around. I say, well, we always hug one another. So, I get them and I hug them again in front of him. But I say that so that they'll understand, and so that my husband would understand as well, because that's a part of who I am. Now, if he found out that I was hugging people all the time, hugging gentlemen all the time when he wasn't around, and then when I'm around him and they come around, I'm shaking their hand, or we're just speaking and talking, well, that's going to cause him not to trust me. So I have to act the same way all the time. That's important. You have to be consistent in the things that you do. And that was another thing that I'm saying. You have to be consistent in the way that you act around your spouse or your significant other. And they have to be the same as well, because those are red flags when you are not acting the same, when you're not being consistent. That's important. So make sure you say what you mean and you mean what you say. Because when you don't do that, it causes your significant other or your spouse to not trust you as much. I'm a person that you don't have to think about, try to put words in my mouth when I say something to you. When I say something, I mean exactly what I say. So you don't have to figure it out or thinking that, I'm sending some kind of message that I'm really not. And I hear a lot of people talk about, when women say no, they really mean yes. When I say no, I mean no. When I say yes, I mean yes. And if I'm irritated, you're going to know it. We have to stop pretending and trying to be something that we're not. That's how your spouse is going to trust you. Say exactly what you mean. Don't leave them, trying to, well, I know she said yes, but I think she really mean no, and I don't know what to really do. That puts a strain on a relationship, and that causes them not to trust you as much, because they don't know what you really mean. They're trying to figure it out, and then when they figure it out the incorrect way, then you're upset and irritated at them, so they don't really know what to do. And then you're playing games with them, so they don't know really, can they trust you or not? Why are you not being honest with them? Why are you playing games with them? That's important. Trust is so important in a relationship. What happens when that trust is broken? We all know we've been in that relationship, and you trust someone and you've given your all and you've done everything that you think that, that you're doing is right, but something happens in the relationship to make you trust him, maybe, or her. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was they did something that you thought. Let's just say, we're not always going to talk about cheating, but let's just say you had money in an account and you all had a joint account together, but you had discussed that if one of y'all make a purchase over, let's say $250, that you would ask the other one, is that okay, for their permission, or you talk about it. But then you began to say, you know what, I know that she's going to say no, so what do I do? So you began to get $50 out at a time instead of getting the whole $250 out, so that you won't have to talk to her or discuss it with her or him. But then they find out about it, and they found out what you've done and how sneaky that was that you've done. It causes them to think about other things that you've done. Are you being sneaky on other things? Well, if you did this, you may do that too. And they began to research things and sneak around and trying to find out what's going on. You can't do that. When your trust has been broken, and you find a way and you decide to say, I'm still going to go forward in a relationship, I still want the relationship to work. When you make that decision, you have to also make the decision to say, I trust you. Because if you decide to make that decision to stay with that person and you do not trust them, you're setting that relationship up for failure. You're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting your significant other up for failure. Because if there's no trust, there's no relationship. See, trust is something we have to start, and we all have to remember that we're human. Sometimes they get caught doing things that we may be doing some of the same things, but we didn't get caught doing it. So therefore, we think it's worse because they got caught doing it, even though we were doing the same thing. You have to remember, you have to start thinking about trust early on in a relationship, right? That's the first thing you should be setting up is, can I trust this person? Not, do this person love me? Can I trust this person? Can this person trust me? That's a foundation for a relationship. Yes, love is extremely important, and being in love with that person is even more important, is do that person love you? But trust is that foundation that you can build a relationship on. So you have to start that early on. You can't say, I'm going to do all this stuff and I'm going to run around and try to find out what they're doing and, going sideways and following them and going through pockets and going through phone books and question everywhere they go. And if they're not in your eyesight, they must be cheating on you, and being very accusing them of everything, of doing things when you can't see them. You cannot build a relationship on that, and you cannot wait until you get serious or begin to get ready to get married in order for you to begin to trust that person. You have to start that relationship, that trust in that relationship early on. That must be the foundation. How miserable would you be if you was in a relationship and you didn't trust that person and you had to go around? We wear so many hats already. I don't need added to my table that I got to be looking over my shoulder trying to find out where he's doing, where he's going. I'm texting him all day long. I'm calling him all day long because I want to, I want him to hear my voice. I want him to be there. I want to see where he is. So, let's do the FaceTime. That's the big thing now, right? Let's do FaceTime or Skype or video chatting so I can really see that you are the place that you say you are. Because a lot of people have gotten caught with their video chat because they say they one place and you can see in the background that they're not. You can't use it for those purposes. You have to believe that person. But once that trust has been broken, it's hard. I know it's hard because I've been through it. But once I said, I want to remain in this relationship, I had to also say, and I trust you. Now, one thing we have to think about, if you've ever been betrayed before, if your trust has ever been broken before, you had that hindsight all the time that something was wrong. You're still going to have that. You're never going to forget that, because we always go back over time and we always think about, oh, when he did this and when did that, oh, that's why he was doing that. So now you're more intelligent, because now those things that you only saw in hindsight, those are going to be red flags that you're going to be looking for in a relationship. So you don't have to go and run around and trying to find out if someone's cheating on you. You don't have to be going through every bank statement to see if an additional $50 is missing. You don't have to be washing clothes, going through their pockets or smelling them, and they got to use a certain kind of soap, and they got to be talking to you all the time, or texting you all the time, or video conferencing you all the time, because you're so afraid of what they're going to do because you can't see them. When you trust a person, you trust that they're going to go where they say they're going to go. They're going to do what they say that they're going to do. And once a male or female come to them sideways and trying to talk to them, you're going to trust that you have shown them your worth in that relationship, and that you are worthy enough for them to say, I don't want to lose what I have. So they are going to do the right thing. Now remember, we're still all human. So they're going to still make mistakes. But we all make mistakes. That's what you have to keep remembering. We all make mistakes. I have a friend, and it was so funny. She and her husband both were cheating on one another. And I knew this. I knew both of them was cheating. They were cheating on one another. And what happened was he ended up getting someone pregnant. She didn't end up getting pregnant. So she had everyone thinking that he was the worst thing in the world because he cheated on her and he got this female pregnant, right? Well, yes, that does make it harder when you've got someone pregnant because now we got, this baby mama drama. We got the baby coming there and we got the child support and you got the constant reminder for, all of the rest of your life that you have together with him if you decide to stay with him. But I had to tell her that was wrong. You were wrong because you was doing the same thing that he was doing. He didn't trust you and you didn't trust him, and your relationship was not worthy enough to say, I don't want to bring another person in this relationship. And that's what they both did. I said, but you were wrong to make it seem like, he was the worst person and you did nothing wrong. You don't have to go around telling people what you did, but they decided not to stay together. I said, you could be honest with him and say, we both have a problem with this. But guess what? If they had have done that, they could have then either decided to stay together now, but then they would have had a foundation to build on because now you're being very honest. Because when you trust a person, in order to trust a person, you have to be honest with that person because you're the only person that you can change. You can't change someone else. So you have to be honest. Honesty is very important when it comes to trusting someone. I don't want to second guess when you tell me that you're going to do something and you're not going to do it and you end up not doing it. Because then I'm not going to trust you again to do what you say that you're going to do. Your word has no meaning to me. Those are all the things that we have to look for. We have to have those conversations. A lot of times we don't like to have the hard conversations. And when your trust has been broken, you have to have that real, raw conversation with the other person. Whoever else is in a relationship with you, you have to have that raw conversation with them and be very honest in order for you to gain that trust. Now, trust is not going to come overnight. Even though I say, yes, I decide I'm going to stay with you. I decide that now that I'm going to trust you. It's not as easy as I make it sound when I say that. But you have to work on it if you want that relationship to work. There's no reason you should say, I do want this relationship to work, and you don't do anything to make it work. You have to stop yourself when you want to follow that person. You have to stop yourself when you want to go through their phone. You have to stop yourself when you want to call numbers back and check and see, who they were talking to. You have to stop doing that. Because that trust has been broken and you now know what those red flags are because you have that hindsight when it happened last time. So you don't have to do all that stuff that you're doing because what that is going to do, that is going to ruin the relationship that you said that you wanted. And you can't let that happen if you truly want it. Is it worth it? Is that relationship worth working for? Is it worth saying, I really want to check his phone right now, but I refuse to do it because I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt or her the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to trust that they were talking to homeboy, homegirl like they said they was. And I'm not going to go through their phones and I'm not going to try to find out. I'm not going to try to see if they have, a work number when it's really a female's number. I'm going to trust that he's not doing that until I find out that I'm wrong. But you have to give that benefit of the doubt. You just don't have to lose that hindsight anymore. Now you're intelligent enough to look at those red flags and say, you know what, something's going on. But when you first notice that, don't become the detective. Have that conversation so that you will know. Once you find out that someone has hurted you, that someone has broken that trust with you, you now know how to handle things. Because if they did it one time, now we're saying, oh, they're going to do it again. So why stay in a relationship? Don't put that negativity in the air that it's going to happen again. Because a lot of times it don't happen again. Find out what made it happen. What was going on in your relationship to cause it to happen? What part did you have in it? You don't have to tell them that you think you had a part in it. You don't have to tell him that or her that. But you have to think it yourself. What part did I partake in this relationship to make it go sour? Did I push this person away? Did I question his motives so much to every time that he came to me and asked me about something that he wanted to purchase over $250, I made it so hard and awkward for him that now he's being sneaky and he's taking $50 out at a time so that I will not know that he's buying a purchase over $250. What part did you partake in helping the relationship go sour? See, that's a big one. But you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself and you have to work on yourself because, again, you're the only person that you can change. And 9 times out of 10, just like it takes 2 people to make a relationship, it takes 2 people to break a relationship. A lot of times it's 2 people who are making mistakes that make it go sour. So you don't have to tell anyone that you're searching your soul because people are going to say, oh, don't give him excuses. Don't do this. Don't do that. No, this is not for people to know. This is not for the other person to know. This is for you to know. And this is an opportunity for you to work on yourself. And once you find that out, it becomes easier then for you to trust that person again, because now you've worked on yourself and you made those changes that need to be changed, because you can't change him. You're thinking about all those things that happen in hindsight, and if he's not doing those things anymore, it becomes easier for you to trust him, and then you begin to fall in love with him again, because of course we fall out of love when that trust is broken. Those things are important, right? But one thing that you cannot do when you are trying to win someone over and when you're trying to get that trust back where it needs to be so that your relationship can be healthy, you cannot demand that that person show you that they're trustworthy. Just like the word love is so easily flown off of the tip of your tongue. I love you. I love you. People say it all the time, so much to it really doesn't have any meaning to it anymore. That's why people second guess it all the time when you tell someone that you love them. They second guess you because it is so easily said. That's the same thing with trust. You can't make someone show you that they should trust you. That's something you got to know. That's something you have to see. You have to see the things that they're doing. That's not a conversation. Oh, where were you today? I want to see, can I trust you? Did you go to places that you say you went? You know, everything they're doing, you got to, they got to show you that they trust you, that you should be trusting them, that they're never going to make that mistake again. Can you imagine how miserable they would be? That will cause that relationship to have such a strain on them that you should have never said, I decided I want to have this relationship, even though the trust. I believe that this relationship is important enough or worthy enough to make it work. You should have never said that if you're going to go through that. You cannot make a person show you that you should trust them. You trust them by the things that you see that they do. You trust them by their actions. Just like love. You can't tell me that you love me and you're doing nothing to show me. Love, you have to show a person that you love them. You have to show, a person have to show you that they're trustworthy. You can't demand that they do that. It's by their everyday action. It's not something that they can fake. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. Oh, if he do a certain thing for a month, then I know I can trust him again. No, we don't know if it's going to take a week. We don't know if it's going to take a month. We don't know if it's going to take a year or if it's going to take years. And sometimes we never get that trust back. But then that's when we have to say goodbye to the relationship. Because without trust, there is no relationship. And that's important for us to know that. Another thing with trust is you have to make sure that you're not, when that trust has been broken, thank you so much for the hearts. When that trust has been broken, you cannot begin to check up on them all the time. Surprising them at places that they said they're going to go. Hello, how you doing? It's not about the nails. I know who that is. She does the nails and she does the natural way. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. You cannot, I forget your first name. That's why I had to say it that way. To let you know, I do know who you are, but I just forgot the name right now. You're always liking the stuff on Instagram, and you're always doing the nails for Tracy and Sean Thomas and all of them. But you have to remember that you cannot, thank you, you cannot follow that person around. You cannot pick everything they do apart. Just like I gave you an example how I used to do with the roses when my husband used to send me the roses. I'm always second guessing everything that he did. You can't go through life like that because it made me miserable. It made him miserable. He's trying to do a nice thing for me. Now, I can't tell you what he was doing out there in the street back then because I don't know. I do know he cared enough about me to know how much I love my roses and he was sending them to me. But I made him miserable because I complained all the time about it. I made myself miserable because I complained all the time about it. And I was miserable because I was feeling so bad that I was listening to other people plant that seed in my head. Oh, he's trying to cover up something. That's the only reason he's sending you those flowers. Keep other people out of your business. Keep the negativity out of your head. That's one important thing because there's only two people in a relationship. And if you're a Christian, there's three. You and him are the only ones who can make decisions for your relationship. People will mess your relationship. Exactly, they will. And they'll still have their relationship. Because they're always talking about, oh, I won't take this and I won't take this. And as females, we know. And as strong as I am and as hard-headed as I am, I don't allow other people to tell me. Because when I make a mistake, I want that mistake, whether it means that I made the mistake, whether it's good or bad. I made that decision myself. I can't fault anyone else. If that relationship wasn't good, I can't go to someone else and say, well, you told me to stay in this relationship, so it's your fault that I had to go through this again. No, it's my fault because I make my own decisions. My husband had to make his own decisions. We're the only ones in that relationship that can either make it work or we're the only ones that can make it not work. Yes, I always say I need to make the decision because I have to live with it. Exactly. And I tell my sons the same way. My sons love to talk to me. And I listen to them and I give them motherly advice. But at the end of it, I always tell them the same thing my mother would tell me. It is your decision. It is your life. And you have to decide because you're the only one that have to live it. And guess what? I can't run two households anyhow. Because while I'm out there trying to run his, then mine's going to go lacking. I have to concentrate on my husband. He has to concentrate on his woman, right? So we have to make sure to keep other people out of our business. It should be only two people in your business, unless you're a Christian. God should be head. It's you and your spouse, or you and the person that you're in that relationship with. That's important. Keep other people out and don't do all that checking up. Remember, trust is a choice. You choose to trust that person. Now you have to sit back and let it ride out. Remember, I'm trying to remind you of that hindsight because I don't believe in going in things and saying, oh, la-da-da-da, that nothing is never going to happen. I'm not going to pay any attention to anything that happens. No. I am going to be always looking. You have to let it ride out. Exactly. You have to always be looking and paying attention now. But you don't cause that to stop you to go forward. You don't cause that for you to question everything that person is doing. Trust is a choice. If you decide to do it, do it. Stop yourself when you're going to do things that you know are going to cause a problem in your relationship. Everything that he does, everything that she does, you're questioning it. Thank you. Everything that they're doing, you're questioning the reason behind it. You're checking up on them all the time. Why would you choose, because trust is a choice, why would you choose to trust a person and then go through that hell of really not trusting them? Because trust is not something that we can fake. A lot of times we say, let's fake it till we make it. A lot of times you can't fake trust. You actually have to do it. It's a process that you have to go through. And if you try to fake it, it's going to come out in the end. I say that about anything. That's why I'm a person of who I am. Whatever I am, that's how I'm going to be everywhere I go. I can't fake who I am. I'm the same person. I would be the same person around President Obama that I am around that homeless person, because that's who I am. And I don't know how to be fake and be this person one time and that person that time. I would get lost. My brain just can't do it. It's the same thing with trust. You have to allow yourself to trust that person. People can see through it. Exactly. You have to allow yourself to trust that person when you make that choice. You have to stop yourself from doing things that you really want to do. Of course, you've been hurt. Do you want to go through those pants and see any numbers in there? Do you want to go through that phone? Do you want to check the text messages? Do you want to look on all this stuff on social media? And social media just ruins so many relationships. But it's because you allow it to ruin relationships. Because you are being fake. It's because you're being sneaky. That's why. You enjoy getting those DMs. People being attracted to you. I don't want to see any of that stuff. But a lot of people do. A lot of people want to see it, and they say they don't because it makes them feel good. It's just like, you know, me and my husband talk about all the time, 31 years, we almost got it right now. But we always talk about, thank God it wasn't there back when I was a very jealous woman. Can you imagine how we've been going through the DM and not trusting him, or a lady's liking his post and, you know, she's saying how handsome he is and, oh, he sure looks good. And I'm getting upset and I'm getting irritated about everything that I see on social media. A friend of mine hit her husband for talking to friends on social media. Yeah, it's crazy. You have to allow them. On my page, my husband has a lot of his friends on there. Even one young lady he used to date before me. It doesn't matter to me because I know now he knows what he has. Now you have to look at it to make sure it's not no disrespect going on. But then that's a conversation you have with him. That's not a Facebook war for you to have with a female or a male on Facebook. You have that conversation with the person that you're sleeping with your spouse, the person that you're in the relationship with. That's the person that's disrespecting you, not that female. Because they can only do what you allow them, what he allowed them to do, right? It is on him because he's the only person you can have the conversation with. She thinks it's funny. Social media will ruin your relationship. It will cause you not to trust. It will cause you to do all these things that you can't do when you're trying to trust. And a lot of people say, well, no, I want to find out what they do. I want everything. I want them to be honest. I want them to tell me everything. I do not want to know everything. We say that until we began to hear those things. When they began to tell us everything that has happened. Man, my husband's gone through where he cheated on me. Do I want to know everything that went on then? Of course I don't. I used to tell him I did. But deep inside, I don't want to hear all of those things because all it would do is hurt me more. For me being in business, men request me as friends every day. Every day I have all of my friends on there. My best friend is a guy friend from middle school, 6th or 7th grade. So why would I not allow him to have them on when I have friends? It's both ways, right? We have to be consistent. We have to trust one another. I can't want things one way for myself, and then when he want to do them, there's a problem. We have to be consistent, and you missed that part of it. That's what we talked about earlier. Let's see, I have 2 more points I want to make. If you feel that you can't trust a person, then you should end the relationship, and I've been talking about that throughout the entire video. Without trust, there is not a relationship. Just like love, just like being in love, just like communication, trust is the foundation of a relationship. It does make it hard to trust when you've been cheated on. But remember, trust is a choice. You have to choose what you're going to do. You're going to have to choose if that person is worth your trust. Because we all make mistakes. What mistakes did you make that he forgave you for? And did he really forgive you? And if so, why can't you forgive him? Is he not worthy of forgiveness? Do you think if you forgave him that the relationship can go forward? Is it worth saving? Is the relationship worth saving? Is it worth going forward with? Exactly. And that's what I talked about a few minutes ago. I gave my friend as an example. Her and her husband both were cheating. Both of them were cheating. But she made him out to be the devil because he got caught up in his cheating where the young lady got pregnant. Well, no one knew she was cheating because she didn't get pregnant. So I had to tell her that's wrong. You both were cheating. You can't make him out to be the villain when you both were doing the same thing just because he got caught up in it. We all make mistakes. And if we're Christians, it goes back to if God can forgive us, why can't we forgive people? And remember, everything that happens in a relationship does not mean that relationship needs to end. It means that relationship a lot of the times, because again, it goes back, yes, you forgave him. Excellent. It goes back to, is that person worthy enough for you to want to work for you want to save that relationship for? Is that relationship worthy enough? Does that man have the characteristic? Because I get a lot of people when I do these videos now, I get a lot of people saying, well, not every relationship is worth, saving. Not every man is worth saving. But he still cheats on his woman now because he wasn't worthy enough. Even though you forgave him, sometimes we forgive people, we forgive for ourselves. You can't change him. You can only change yourself. So whatever you were doing, like you said, you both were, you were not innocent either. So earlier on the video, I talked about we have to look at how we had a partaken in that. What did we do that we need to work on? That don't have to be a conversation because you don't want to give him an excuse or a reason why he was cheating. But you want to look at yourself so you can make it better regardless if you decide to stay with him or if you decide to move on in a relationship. You want to make yourself better because you are the only person that you can change. You can't change him. So once you saw, even though you forgave him, once you saw that he wasn't worthy enough, then you moved on, right? But now you're healthier in yourself because you still had that opportunity to say, I forgive you. And that's for yourself so you won't harbor those feelings and take it on to the next relationship. Now, I don't know, he respects you too. Exactly. Exactly. He knows you're not going to put up with anything. And you don't have to be mean and you don't have to be nasty. But you do have to respect yourself and you do have to show your self-worth. Now he knows your self-worth. He may not have known it before, but now he knows it. Yes, I forgive you, but I forgive you enough to let you go. That's important. I'm really nice and I pray with him too. Now that's awesome. That's on a whole nother step, honey, because I ain't that nice all the time. I don't believe in having relationships after we split up, but a lot of people do. And it works out for a lot of people. My mother and father, they divorced after 25 years. And when she passed away, they were still the best of friends. I have aunts that are the same way, uncles that are the same way. They're, really, really close to their ex-husbands or ex-wives. My grandmother, my grandfather was the same way. And I have to say, because I haven't gone through it. Now, that's what's important. You have to have that for those little girls. That's good that y'all have that relationship. That's awesome. That's a big woman who can do something like that. But you're thinking about your babies and not just yourself. You're not best friends, but you're friends because that's easier for those babies. And I commend you for that. That's awesome. The last thing I wanted to say is remember those things that you overlooked before. And that's what we talked about because you wasn't on the video earlier, that hindsight. Anytime we go through something and we find out that we've been betrayed in any way, once we find out about the betrayal, we go back and we think about things that have happened that we should have seen those red flags, but we didn't until actually after it happened. That's what's going to help you be able to honestly trust someone now, because you don't have to go through all those things. You still don't have to go through looking for him to break that trust. You don't have to look for him to break it, because you have those red flags now that you now know are red flags. Sometimes we overlook those red flags because we don't want to ruin the relationship. We don't want to end the relationship. We don't want to think that someone is being dishonest to us if it wasn't cheating. We don't want to think that someone is being dishonest to us. So we overlook those things that were so right there in our eyesight, right? With him, I didn't see it coming. No, you didn't see it. That's what I'm saying. You don't see it coming then. You don't think you see it coming then, but there were things that that was right there in front of you that you should have seen, but you couldn't because you didn't want that relationship to end. You don't want to think that he will betray you like that. But once he betrayed you, once that trust was broken, and you sit back while we're doing all our crying and our snotting and all that stuff, we began to think about things that happened in the past. Oh, I remember when, I came home and he hurry up and jump and came to the door. He may have been in the room on the phone then. Or I remember when an incident happened, back then, it caused me to think about something, but I quickly threw it out of my mind. There were red flags there. When my husband cheated on me, there were red flags when I finally sat down and I thought about it. I thought about all these things that happened that I should have seen back then. And I really did see, but I buried it because I didn't want that relationship to end. I didn't want it to be true. I could not believe that he would do something like that to me. So I buried it because I didn't want to see it. I remember I was woke out of my sleep by God that said, tell him to repent. If you're a Christian woman, you believe that God said that, and God will tell you. Once you read my book, you'll see a part of my story about that. Once you believe that, and that's what he told you to say, he was giving you signs right then that something was wrong. But even in the human realm, you saw some red flags. We all do, because they are not as good as lying and cheating as they think they are. So they did some things, and he did some things that you did see back then, but you refused to see it. You refused to think about it. You refused to say that this man can betray me like this. So you pushed it to the side. You pushed it back in your mind. You was way too green, yes. But once you found out and you sit back and you think about it and you say, oh yeah, that was a sign, that was a sign, that was a sign. Now, you don't take that into the next relationship. But if you decide to stay with that man, you now are looking to see if any of those signs happen again. If those signs are not happening, you should be able to trust that person. You still don't have to go through everything and try to make him make you believe that he's trustworthy. You want him to make you believe that he's now worth it and he's going to keep his word and all of that. That is too much stress on a relationship. Trust is a choice and it's an action word. You have to look at the things that they're doing, not the things that they're saying. I don't care how much a man tell you that he apologized. Trust is a choice. Exactly. I don't care how much a man or woman say, I apologize, I'll never do it again, I'll never do it again, I'll never do it again. 2 seconds later, they're doing it again. It's their actions that you're looking for, not their words. Just like love, it is the actions that you're looking for. It is not the word, I love you. Because people can meet you one day and they can start talking about, I love you. Next week, I love you. You get a friend, oh, I love you. Business, oh, I just love you. Love is just a line all the time. Love just flows so gently off of the tongue to people just let it flow. And they just say it with no meaning to it at all. Trust is the same way. Oh, you can trust me. I don't have to tell you that. My actions should speak for it. It's just like if I'm a Christian, I don't have to go around every time I talk to you. Oh, I'm blessed. I'm favored by, God and all of this kind of stuff. Your light should be shining. That's your action. The things that you do cause me to say, oh, she must be a Christian. She must be, she must be really living what she's preaching when people say that I'm watching. Exactly. You shouldn't have to tell people that. Your actions should speak for it. I shouldn't have to tell you if I love you. My actions should speak for it. I shouldn't have to ask you, can I trust you? If I got to ask you that, the answer is no. Because somewhere in my subconscious it's telling me I cannot trust that person. And just because that person tells me yes, oh, you can trust me, that's that red flag right there. Trust is an action word. Trust is a choice. But once you decide to do it and once you choose to do it, don't mean nothing exactly. But once you decide to do it and once you choose to trust a person, you have to give them every benefit of the doubt. Because if not, you're going to ruin yourself emotionally. That's what I want you to get out of this video now. When you don't have trust, trust is the foundation of a relationship. Just like friend, I'm reading her thing. Just like love, just like communication, trust is the foundation. My friend told me that I might hurt you and I might get mad with you if I watch this. They said that about me because I'm honest. If they said that about me, it's because I'm honest and I don't fake. I don't try to be fake. I try to be honest about things. But I was saying earlier that I get a lot of videos saying that, I think every relationship is worth working for and it's worth, no one should get a divorce. That's never, ever what I'm saying. Never, ever what I'm saying. I always say, look at that person's character. Is that person worth you fighting for? Only you would know that. I couldn't tell you that. I can't tell you that you need to stay with that person. Know what I'm saying? My friend told me I may hurt you. I don't know. No, you won't hurt that person. You have to just make sure that you are making a better you. Maybe I'm not understanding the comment, but you have to make sure that, I tell people all the time, you can't change anyone else. You hear that saying all the time, but it's true. You got mad because we don't want them. And I said that on the video. We don't want them to be honest with us. We don't want them to tell us everything, even though we say we do. We really don't. But you don't have to hear everything. All you have to know is what they've done out there. You have to decide whether you want to be with them or not. Then you have to decide and make the choice if you're going to trust them. Because once you make the decision that I want to be with this person, you must make the decision if you're going to honestly trust them or not. Give that relationship that opportunity that it deserves if you say it's worth you working for. So that's what we're talking about today. We talked about trust. Why do you need trust? How important is it in a relationship? And we have to be honest. We may hurt a man too. Exactly. That's why I always say, I always try to say husband and wife. There's absolutely no one perfect. And sometimes just like when I used that analogy earlier about how my friend, both of them was cheating and he got caught. Because we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's again why I say you have to look back at yourself. Even if you don't ever tell anyone that I think I had a part to do with this, it's important for you. It's important for you to look back and say, what could I have changed? Because you're working on yourself for yourself. And you're the only person that you can change. So when you make that decision to say, I trust someone, you make that choice to say, I'm going forward with this and I'm going to trust you, please genuinely trust that person. But also look for those red flags so you don't do anything naively. That's important. So if you need to be inspired more or motivated more, please look for my book, The Unveiling of a Mask. His cheating helped me to change every relationship as a lesson. Exactly. Sometimes that's what they're all for, so we can learn something. So not all the time about them. We can learn something about ourselves, and we can learn something about the man that we thought we wanted. Everything is a lesson in life. I always say you chew up the meat and spit out the fat. I'm country, remember? I always have a country saying. So you can learn something from everything that you do. But if you need to be inspired and motivated more, remember that I have written the book on my life story, and it's about so much more than just mental illness. But you can be inspired by that. It's about love, trust, betrayal, family, triumph, struggle, Oh, it's about so much, knowing your self-worth as a young girl and, knowing how to get through those struggles. So if you need that inspiration, if you have gone through anything in your relationship, if your trust has been broken, we talk about this in the book, and it would inspire you and it would help you get through whatever you're going through in your relationship. But one thing it would also do is it would also help you if you haven't gone through anything, because you haven't really been in a really serious relationship. It allows you to help you get over those struggles that may happen in your relationship, because you're going to have some struggle. Teeth and tongue fall out. So two unique people getting together, there are going to be some struggles. If it's as simple as, he likes the house to be cold and you like the house to be hot, you're going to have a struggle in your relationship. And sometimes that's a real struggle in relationships. It seems so petty, but it truly is. I have seen it so many times, especially in the younger people. My husband and I, we minister to younger couples. So I've heard it all. So if you need that inspiration, please, the book is now on pre-order. You can go to PayPal and send $25 to kaylmay@ymail.com and order your hard copy of the book. It will be available May the 12th, and I will autograph and send it to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Kayl May. I am the Customer Service and Leadership Coach. I'm an author, motivational speaker, public speaker, radio talk show host, and mentor. I never take it lightly. Let you take time out of your day to join me. I appreciate you. Everyone have a wonderful day, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.